Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Buenos dias, buenos noches, everyone. You are here today, here where I am in Olympia, Washington, Sunday afternoon for our Cultivating Voices live wild card open mic. I'm your host, Sandy Yannone, again, as I mentioned, joining you from the Pacific Northwest, land of the Salish Sea. And we're so looking forward to hearing from this wild card open mic today. People flooded in right at the beginning when they could sign up, and the signups went like rapid fire today. So folks are still coming into the room. Welcome everyone to the reading today. We do have a waiting list, and if so, we will be happy to be able to get to hear from as many people as possible. We will go to about 15 after the hour and see how many folks we can get in, and I'll do my best to be judicious in my comments and move things along well. Before we get to the open mic, just a few of the protocols for today. Our featured open mic readers who've been waiting to read now for about 15 minutes because they came in and signed up early, have up to 5 minutes each to read. And then we will proceed to the open mic and get in as many people as we can. If you're on the open mic, one poem, please, and try to keep that to 2 to 3 minutes to make room for as many people as possible. Well, Cultivating Voices Live Poetry has been with you since March 2020 in response to venues shutting down everywhere across the globe. And as I like to remind everybody from time to time, we're an international, intersectional, intergenerational group that's just kept growing and growing and growing over these past 2 years. We feature new book showcases as well as special events and themed readings. Today, however, is our wild card open mic. So without further ado, let's move to the open mic and get to our readers for today. Again, we've got just such a great, fantastic list of readers that are joining us from all over the globe. So we will begin with the wonderful. I'm always so happy when Julian Matthews is here with us, and then that will be followed by J. Rose Anna.
Hi.
Hi, Julian.
This is called The Tunnel. Someone said these poetry open mics are akin to bridges, but I say they're more like tunnels. In a tunnel, when you enter, sometimes you are excited, sometimes a little nervous, uncertain, sometimes you are wired, tired, seeking solace. You enter the darkness with the hope that there is light on the other side, that you will eventually find a way out, even if you have to dig your way out. Was there a glimmer when you were in here last? Did a shiny line coil its way around your heart's feet and tip it over? Were you so moved that you somehow transcended space and time and melted into the screen? Were some words so tender they swooned your soul and it grew wings and orbited the heavens briefly? Did you cross over? Or when the host asked everyone to unmute and show some love, did you stay muted, camera off, aching inside? Was the echo chamber too loud for you? When you clicked leave, was it then a relief? When it was over, did you return to your side of the tunnel underwhelmed, undelivered, uncrossed? Is your side of the tunnel still hollow? A chasm of sameness, indifference, apathy, a cluttered desk you swear is an organized mess, the shelf of unread books, a lone couch, an empty, unwashed mug? Was the friend request ignored? Did the text go unreplied? Was the email you sent ghosted for weeks, months, like a clock on the wall that stopped ticking when no one was looking? Sometimes there is a disconnect by I hear you, I see you, I feel you. I too have a hole of unburied grief. I pray some nights you return with a full heart, that your heart pounds so hard inside you, you could hear your rib cage crack with every beat. That across this optical illusion, this digital hallucination, these amplified bit surfing on fibrous light wires ever so briefly, you are lit. I hope you cup that light in your hand like a firefly, bottle it, watch it glow till you drift off to sleep, afloat on a cloud of happy childhood memories. For our precious time together here is a time tunnel, a hidden underpass, a secret passageway. We plow through it with bare hands, calloused by this sentencing of our own making, and it seems all around us the bridges are being broken and all the war drums beat louder and louder. When all you and I want is the same thing, some peace of mind, some shared silences, some soft music, some soothing words, and to hear someone, anyone, on the other side, digging, still digging. Thank you.
What an appropriate poem to start us off, to think about really the implications of this space that we that we are inhabiting, this virtual space, and how it requires us to still consider what that means to be human in that space. You're here today listening to Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. We're just started the wild card open mic with just a very beautiful poem from Julian Matthews. If those of you continuing to come in the room, we filled up very, very quickly today, and we have filled all the slots for the reading for the featured readers as well as for our open mic. So I hope that those of you who came in hoping you might be able to read today, as I said, we just filled up so quickly, and also that you'll enjoy the beauty of listening to readers today. I think for me, that's 90% of the beauty of it, is the listening. So I hope you'll enjoy the reading, and we will move next to Jay, Rose, Anna, followed by Bill Nevins. Welcome, Jay.
Hello, thank you. This poem is called Manhattan to Mars. Just a less than ordinary girl, finding herself in a busy, ordinary world. On the streets of Manhattan, wondering, when does my life happen? Just a less than ordinary checkout girl aboard her conveyor of hope, with flashing lights and whirring sound, a control panel of a space machine outbound. Heading out to Mars, to explore the cosmos and find herself adrift amidst the blackness. The dark blackness, vacuum of space. sucking in air and choking on the bitter chill or the bitter pill of no thank you, Jack or Jill rejection, because dead naming has become an infection. And she sits there on her swivel chair, tied back hair, hazel eyes and hazel hair, and she swivels gently on her hair swivel hazel chair. Would you like help packing? And she dreams of landing on the angry red planet, the angry neighbor-free, misunderstood angry planet. And every barcode scanned is a message from home, a Morse code message of hope and love from unknown faces that died long ago. And she's adrift in the vast, empty vastness of the nothingness they call the cosmos or cosmosless world out there, where everyone is apart, free from the empty space between us. In the empty vacuum of blankness and lookaways and not today's, the vast blank empty canvas of the cosmosless stares there to a swivel chair. Are you a boy or a girl? Do you really care? How would you like to pay? And the conveyor squeaks like the radio speaks from millions of miles away, a message from home, interset with static aplenty. And that radio squeak and static speak of 2-for-1s on oxygen tanks and dry packaged food and bottled water to hydrate her existence from the meter square cubicle until her next break, where she gets to buy a cup of rotten coffee and look upon a stale old sandwich after staring at the wares of the shoppers, unaware of the deals aplenty everywhere and everywhere. All you could imagine in the deal-breaking aisle of empty hope and the black vastness of the supermarket stack, the black stack, vast stack of supermarket crack and the empty cosmosless blank space between us. Rack after rack, grab all you can pack. Would you like any cash back? She's just a less than ordinary girl on the red dust of ground up rust, a must rust dust less than ordinary hazel-haired girl from the streets of Manhattan, dreaming big of discovering life out there. Her life, any life, first contact, 0-hour contract, anyone, anywhere, hazel or not, she doesn't care. Just a signal, even a rumble on the cold, dead world from her hazel swivel chair, and she ties back again her ragged hazel hair. Would you like a bag for life? What life? Life left long ago and is adrift in the void out there, with less than ordinary hazel hair, in the vast black empty nothingness of the empty blank space filled with less than ordinary hazel despair. And she swivels there on a lonely, less than ordinary hazel chair. Have you seen her? The checkout girl from Manhattan who has these incredible dreams of going to Mars. She's a minute late on her 10-minute break. Maybe she's tired. When she returns, tell her she's fired. Thank you very much.
J. Rose Anna, everyone, welcome and thank you. Great to have you for your first reading here on Cultivating Voices, live poetry. Yeah, Kate's there. Yep, Kate's sending the love, which a reminder, please send the love to everybody in the chat as they're reading and, use the emojis and the reactions button to let folks know you're appreciating what you're hearing from our poets today here in our Cultivating Voices live wild card open mic. Well, next we'll hear from Bill Nevins and then followed by Rosaline Callaghan.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to read 2 poems and I'm going to stay within a short time frame. We here I'm in New Mexico in the mountains. We here experience an unbelievable Armageddon-like firestorm during this early part of the year. So these poems are somewhat derived from there. The fire has stopped now. We've been blessed with rain and the fire and 3,000 firefighters who came. So here we go. There's an epigraph from Nick Cave's Red Hand Files. All that is required to move from indifference to love is to have our hearts broken. And the poem is Flame, Holy Flame. Burn, burn back, back burn. Heart heaves, each blood thump in pain, thump, thump, thump. How does a heart beat on when home, hearth, hope are all gone, gone? How does a dead forest speak? How may a proud people weep? The fire came this time, and now the floods must come. They must come, dark ash flowing into the veins of this holy ground. And I hear the words from the grave of Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez. Yo soy Joaquin. I am Joaquin, lost in a world of confusion, caught up in the whirl of a gringo society, confused by the rules, scorned by attitudes, suppressed by manipulation and destroyed. Yo soy Joaquin. Yet when rage will rhyme, a righteous song will be sung from Mora, New Mexico to Santa Fe to Washington. Sleeping Nuevo Mexico wakes y Aztlán se agita una vez más. To the rebel roar once more, un grito feroz, grief as candles burn and charred chapel runes, Christ's blood, Christ's tears drip down, then pour as a mother's anguish washes her fallen son's feet, his 7 wounds, her own remaining years. As the penitent brotherhood chants, as King Tiger rants, a blood flame shall light these mountains, these sangres, to move more than thoughts, prayers, empty promises of relief, and tedious FEMA waiting queues. Ya basta. These lands, these gente, shall be made whole once more. Los manitos, they do endure. And a brief poem. Some people say, I don't believe in heaven, but I do believe in ghosts. Well, I may not believe in God, but I do believe in guardian angels. Michael hears my prayer. I whispered to Michael about the defrocked angels loose in this time of mad guns and wildfires. Michael, my wise pal, has been with me even from before I was me. You ever suspect that ugly bunch up there were bluffing all this time since the big flood and all? Is this the fire next time? Must the children's hearts burn? Michael just touched that place behind his left ear, chuckled the way he does, rotated a 1/4 inch, ruffled his wings, and touched the hilt of his saber. He did that whenever he was stressed. And then he breathed a long, soft breath. There was no fire. There was no flood. The guns went away. Rain began to fall. The kids laughed and leapt, silly as can be.
Great work, Bill. Thank you so much. Always great to have you on the program with us. And yeah, I'm just always so happy when we get to hear your work, joining us from New Mexico. Thank you. Be well. And next we will move to go right across. We'll go to Rosaline Callaghan, followed by Rawle James.
Lovely, thank you very much. From Derry, where it's pouring with rain, even though the sun is splitting the heavens in England, but there we have it. This poem is called Go to the Stones, just 2 words to explain for those who may not know them. Achara is the Irish for friend, and Cantiore is the word for an Irish native speaker. So go to the stones. When the soul thirst is on you, go to the stones. The circles of stones are bygone world's bones. Ah, the still standing stones, buffed by 20,000 seasons, while your heart, Achara, is buffeted, pain pockmarked. Your soul feels forsaken, and you, a bewildered wanderer, are lost from home. The soul thirst compels you to thresholds of thin places. The indweller calls on you to cast aside confines of concrete, tear down citadels of inherited ideas, shuck off handcuffs of time, emerge through strata of impositions of others' ways. You'll know what was true before popes prescribed patriarchy, penitence, penance, and parrot prayers, before foreign thrones prescribed custom, culture, and cantiore, before the old ways shorn and scattered. Choirs of stones shall chant their songs, and you'll know their sumptuous melodies. Cascades of stones shall wind throw words, and you'll know their perfect fluency. You'll hear exposition broadcast under a sea-scented dusk as blankets of stillness, peace, and knowing roll out across muted meadows with the tenderness of a Brehon mother, wrapping you in wildness, swaddling you in ancient. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosaline. Always great to hear a poem from you, joining us from Derry. And a reminder, folks, yeah, feel free to let us know where you're joining us from as well. I won't always be kind of announcing that, and even though I might have an inkling. So yeah, it's great to for other folks to have a sense of where everyone's joining from. Well, now we will, I believe, go to the north of where I am and go to Canada, Toronto, I believe, to hear from Rawle James, and Rawle will be followed next. And I appreciate Kim putting everybody in the chat by Glenda Cimino. Welcome, Rawle. So good to see you today.
Thank you, and blessing all poets. Thank you for being here. Yes, I'm in Toronto, Canada, and it's overcast. Just got a break from the heat and humidity. So I have just one poem I'll share with you. It's called Naked. Lovers embrace the lazy stillness of the moment while watching the playfulness of sea otters as they sat under the golden sky of an island sunset. You see, she had ventured forth into the unknown and acted as my guide in preparation to go beyond the sixth sense, fueled by a lucid stream of thoughts as we waited for the approaching dark. I stood naked to the universe in full exhale of mother's breath as my understanding of me was stripped away. I was beyond spoken words or expectations of the pending journey. My surroundings humbled me as the silence carried my soul to witness streaks of light that faded in and out of my altered state. I stood on the rocks of the shoreline as the receding water wrestled itself back into the dark of night. Swaying under a canopy of stars, my silhouette hand connected stars like dots on a paper with a pen of bright magenta and violet, while my lover swing danced with the waves that kissed the shore. As I twirled my arms touching the horizon, I found myself front and center to the fireworks of shooting stars and brightly lit fireflies that signatured the artist's touch. Time was not a factor in this, the theater of the universe, as my lover and I were drawn together to marvel and laugh at the silliness that seemed like reruns of the last moment. I hopscotched a multitude of rocks and fell through a bottomless pit to where thought echoed the end of the beginning as my inhibitions were peeled away. Eyes wide open to the magnitude of acts in this celestial play, as the silence of the moment orchestrated a symphony of unseen crickets that vocalized the rhythm between the waves, gentle kisses. In the blink of the dark, my lover and I broke our solitude to venture into a moment of pure love that required no touch or words. In a singular thought, I saw the beauty of creation upon her face as she appeared as a window to my soul. And like a light at the end of the tunnel, I was drawn through her window, only to find the infinite loop that brought me back to me. In the softness of her eyes, I saw time stand still as all my desires patiently awaited for every breath, which only intensified her beauty. I stood with my arms wrapped around my lover and the moon as we witnessed tomorrow's dreams streaking by as visible light, just waiting to be captured as answer to prayers. The rhythmic beat of my heart echoed eternal hope as I sat in wonderment's awe under heaven's gate. All my senses heightened, and my psychedelic journey slowly blended back into the illusion of reality. Tears of gratitude flowed, my soul recharged, my heart was full, my head a vault of thoughts of the journey experience, all in alignment as my lover and I sat upon the sands welcoming the dawn's light. As I was back naked in the sweet breath of mother. End of poem. Thank you, poets. Love you all.
Beautiful work as always. Thank you so much, Rawle James, joining us from Toronto, Canada. Always a pleasure to hear your work. And again, I'm so mindful, everyone. We've got a very robust. We've got a number of people on the wait list, and appreciate us moving along. So keeping my comments to a minimum. A reminder, please send your appreciation in the chat to the poets. Also, poets reading today, feel free to put information about your books, upcoming readings, information about where folks can learn more about your work in the website. And if you're a host of another reading series, feel free to put that information in. Very, very happy to kind of share the information along with folks here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. Isn't that the whole point, is to be able to share information and share poetry and kind of share community. So we go next to Glenda Cimino, and then we'll hear from Giulio Magrini. Glenda, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity to hear such great poems and to read. This poem is one, my writers group in Dublin, Ireland, Belchina. Often every year we do a response to a book, a poetic response, and it's usually put online and broadcast. And the line from the book that triggered my poem was, "My mother cast me as her blight. With age, I came to realize that when she saw me, she was envious. Toward the end, we had some sweet interludes." So that line was like a capsulation of my own childhood. So this is a poem about my childhood in Georgia in the last century. My mother and me. She would hold me over the tub and pour stinking chemicals on my soft, naturally curly hair. She called it a permanent. The result was a wiry frizz. I thought it made me look ugly. Did she want me to look ugly? When I sang, she implored me to stop. "You can't carry a tune in a bucket," she'd say. All the same, I was in the church choir. "You should always wear long skirts," she chided. "You need to hide those fat legs." But were they fat? My mother practiced a combination of overprotectiveness and neglect. Sometimes she would lock me out of the house. I would shout and scream and bang the door to no avail. One time I kicked a glass pane in the locked door and its jagged edge sliced through my heel. I stamped bloody footprints all over the patio. See what you did, I said. I had to get lots of stitches. Eventually I got a college scholarship and at 17 left home, vowing never to return. Years later, I did come back, older, less self-obsessed, and my mother shared her own stories with me. She loved school, but had to leave at 13 to mind siblings while her mother worked. At 16, she got a job as a waitress, bringing groceries home to the family. At 22, she fell in love and married a handsome pilot, but at 23, she was a war widow. At 25, she married my father briefly and had me. How privileged my life must have appeared to her. How soft, how many opportunities I had, how much freedom, endless education, new clothes every year, advantages she never got. I began to understand how she wavered between resentment and love, envying me one moment, wanting the best for me the next. She began to write about her life, little stories she published under a pen name in the local paper. How the Salvation Army brought her a precious doll and food one Christmas when they had nothing, and her mother cried. How once she was at a party, and the state governor came to her table and asked to dance with the prettiest girl in the room. I gathered up the poems she had handwritten on scraps of paper scattered in drawers and bound them in a little book. I reminded her how she used to send me some money or care packages of food and toiletries when I was away, not writing to her, and how these always seemed to arrive when most needed. Sometimes she would say, I was a terrible mother, wasn't I? And I would lie and say, no, you were always a wonderful mother, holding back to spare her feelings. Until one day, when she was gone, I realized that my lie was the truth. Thank you. I'll just read that one.
Glenda, great work. Thank you so much. Good to hear your work today. And we move from Glenda to hear from Giulio Magrini, and so good to hear from you, and then followed by Jude Dubin.
Thank you, Sandy. Coming from Pittsburgh today. I have a book release coming out next month. It's called The Color of Dirt. This is called My Life in Empty Space. Everyone has it. What they were was taken or left, expelled with the trash, the residual leavings of life, excreted, lifeless, empty. I am left with the holes of memory through the laughing smiles, the touch of a small hand, the eyes turned upward, loving the birds, especially the red ones. You remember those days of dressing up? She hated the attention of her favorite color and was patient in the museums, odd for a child her age. You wondered at the joy she commanded. Where would it take her? You dreamt for her choices viewed from immature bows and taffeta, your charge to plan and dream until her design finalized by seasoned choices. That season never came, and it was never planned for, because there was no plan, and there was no life that made an allowance for unbearable, terrible eventualities, possibilities that are unthought through the moments and breaths of a child's happy gasps of one more time, mama, one more time. What can we do with these empty spaces? They will never be her. And what have I become? Living as a minus from the memories of her in my heart. There is no reckoning of us left, or me. There is no me without us, and that is my life in empty space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Giulio Magrini, folks, and congratulations on the new book. I'm gonna put you down on the list to get you featured in a new book showcase with us.
Much
And,
appreciated, Sandy.
Yes, of course, and thank you. Very moving poem. Grateful to have heard it today. Well, next, get to hear a poem from Jude Dubin. I'm so excited to hear you read today. Thank you. I know you're very careful about when you choose to read. And so beautiful that you are reading today in our live
Thank you.
open mic. I'm followed by Jude, will be followed by Kate, Clare, Wegrzyn.
I'm coming to you from a part of Illinois, Peoria, and one poem called Song. It rips my heart that I don't have the perfect chord to give you, for together we would create a song with notes so pure the world would cry with joy. Our song would start so sweet with coo and chirp and smile, and slowly grow crescendo, explode in brilliant ecstasy, then rest in soft repose. I would swallow your breath to make you mine, and our song would glow, and our chord would grow, and it would teach the world that the songs of the heart are the sounds of the wind whirling, and the sounds of the brooks babbling, and the sounds of the clouds rumbling that will never fade away. Thank you.
That's a lovely song. That's a lovely song. Thank you so much, Jude. And next, we go from Illinois, just slightly west over to Colorado to hear from Kate, Clare, Wegrzyn.
Hello, loved ones. I don't know if it's odd, but I see you in my dreams. I wake up and wonder, were we really talking? Do we really see each other, feel each other? And then I say, well, my hair was all the way down to here and it got cut and no one said anything. I chopped off all my hair. So now I ask, please pay more attention. Okay, thank you. A little intro. The white-tailed deer range on the eastern river and plains. Now out towards the foothills, an atypical witness, a convergence on mule deer terrain. Early morning, slow ride home, beauty all around. I sighted grazing deer. Now a grand mule deer herd. Field flourishing of lush green grass to graze led me to pull over and stare. With awe, their alert and quiet stance. Mule deer does with spring fawns waited at bay. A huge 4-point mule deer buck rising up from the ravine stood his ground. 3 lesser mule deer bucks alert rose above and circled does and spring fawns. An unfolding shift a change of the guard. By chance, I peered around the bend, approaching now 20 white-tailed deer, nose to tail, close in single file along the canal. They journeyed north, a narrow path above the ravine. I am fascinated of what I have witnessed every season for all of these years. And then just this early morning, as we peered out our windows a few days ago, the doe was breastfeeding her 2 newborn fawns. One seemed weakened from the predator man in his pasture, having chased with a 5-foot pole during extreme heat across his pastures. Suckling for nourishment before the doe must leave, she led them to rest in the grass among protective shrubs and under the shade of a tall tree until her return for evening feed. Such is the way. The doe leaves after feed, returns at the end of the day, feeds, leaves again, so that no predator would sight her. But we have a predator, the man at the pastures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. Taking everything in today. Hi, Ken. Ken Burch is next, and it's really wonderful to see you.
It's
Ken will be
it's
followed
good to
by
be here.
Glenn Ferris. Yes, thank you.
Well, this is a poem I wrote yesterday, and it's about a person I never imagined I would write a poem about, that I would have feelings about, Ivana Trump. And I wrote this hearing of the image of her being found alone at the foot of her staircase, being left alone by her family. A couple of other images came into it. These aren't all mentioned in the poem, but of the same family that and the same man who abandoned her, essentially, all showing up at her funeral to kind of claim it. And the same man who, when he announced her death, announced it on his webpage with a link to contribute to his campaign. And she was a privileged person. She was a person who had a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have liked. The idea of someone simply being used and cast aside brought this. Song for a Cast-Off Blonde. The base of the stairway, of the stairway, of the stairway, they found you. Your heart, they said, had failed, they said, on its own, they said. Alone, they said, alone, they said, alone. They, with no hearts to fail, said. Nothing suspicious, they said, just alone, alone, alone. They said, so much of your days alone, your months, weeks, years, alone at the place, the fine place, the final place where they said, you took your meals, they said, you had trouble, they said, simply walking, they said, to the table, they said, where you dined, alone, alone, alone. He had left you alone. He had cast you aside alone, alone, alone. You were no longer suited to his needs, no longer suited to he who was always suited in hand-tailored, baggy, red-tied, wounding threads of malworded rage in the fabric of desperation to win, to prove himself worthy of the father to whom he was never worthy, as he denied the term worthy to his scarring sons. He who could not win the love of an angry ghost could give none to you. Once you were no longer of the face, of the age, of the look that was enough for he for whom nothing had been, was then, could be again enough. You were replaced as soon as the lawyers could find the grounds to replace you. to oust you from the grounds of the badly made towers of cheap gold paint, the temple of the hollow name of the hollow self-worshipping last name theistic god emperor. You were replaced by the next blonde, then the next, she who must wonder when her day will come, when she will be cast off to the Slovenian Badlands as you were to the high-rise lowlands. He who discarded you, who silenced you, who made you as of nothing, and the children you had with him before your banishment, came to your mass, came to make sure, no doubt, nothing that was said in that rented house of God was not to their liking, to their glory, to their use. Yet one voice, she who had raised those children while you were held hostage in his ego in the years before the human within each was snuffed out, leaving only the shells in tailoring and couture, spoke 2 minutes of truth, said, your winter was a swamp. Those you bore creatures from the swamp, drained from you all that was life, all that was love, all that fed their needs, then cast away the emptied skin of who you were. No one reached out, she said, no one reached out enough, she said, or saved you, she said, saved any part of you, she said, you were left the base of the stairway, the base of the stairway, the base of the stairway, where the next blonde Sakra wives could climb to their gold painted altar doom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken Burch. And yes, I can imagine you're kind of shocked at feeling like I'm going to write about Ivana Trump. Like I would feel the same way. Thank you so much. We
You're
never
welcome.
know where the poems are going to come from. We never know where the poems will come from. Beautiful. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, next we'll hear from Gordon Ferris, and then our final reader of the open micers before we go to the wait list, it will be Thomas. So welcome, Gordon. Nice to have you here with us tonight.
Good evening, everybody. I couldn't read a few short poems now that were I've been mentored by a great poet over here now, Fiona Bulger, just giving me some help with these poems. Okay, the first one is called Conscience. It looks at you every day, tells you to think again. Sometimes it looks at you, guides you which path to take. It may seem indifferent, but it's just, it doesn't know. When something feels good, it says it's wrong. How does it know this? When darkness falls, it tells you to go into it, that it's not as dark as you think. It doesn't even affect you. But you know it hurts others, and when this happens, do you remain unhurt? And this one is called Portrait of an Introvert. You cut your steak into neat little pieces and eat your meal systematically, one item at a time. Meat first, potatoes next, moving them into neat piles, and then onto the veg, eaten with head bowed. Never gazing across the table at your partner, everywhere but there, eyes darting from side to side, to get a hint at how to behave. With fingers brushing hair away, you glance at your inner mirror, carried within you always, to see how you think you're viewed by the world. And this is called Inordinate. If every choice you never made, every dream you pushed away, in an ultimate world this game was played, its consequence a price you gladly paid. Though the heart has hurt you, never sway in every choice you never made, 'cause was just you were afraid to speak your wish and what you may. In an alternate world, if this game was played, the outcome is your dreams are made, and in another place they play. If every choice you never made had lived life and plans were laid, to seed and flower and bloom in May, in an alternate world, this game was played. You stand tall, you're not afraid in defiance of what they say. What of every choice you made in an alternate world, this game was played. And I'm going to finish with an old, with this is actually just a new poem. I just wrote it there yesterday. It's called The Outsider. She whispers secrets with her best friends. She looks for comfort where she can find it. She hopes against all hope, against all logic, and against all her vast experience that maybe just once the loser, the least one they expect, just might win. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Gordon Ferris. Great to hear your voice today here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. And we will now go to our last reader of the featured open mic, and then move on to the wait list, and that is Thomas. Hey, Thomas, welcome, Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm coming to you from sunny Olympia today by the Salish Sea. And I've got, oh man, I'm gonna go with a brand new one. It's like second draft. So I'm going to be wild and try this. That time by the river. It was summer early, or perhaps spring late, all time and no time, hours or an eternity, time like torrents of snowmelt roaring and whispering both, the water carrying starlight down from the high peaks, time slow like blossoms opening in their time, wild rose, daisy, lupin, paintbrush. Our human time was not carnal, was incarnate. Our intimacy like the spotted sandpiper's tender probing among shining rocks at the river's edge for nymphs and larvae, sustenance plucked from cold, clear joy. Our kindnesses showed a higher love as the blue heron paused on a dead branch of a snowing cottonwood tree, as our bodies rested on the bank below, as cedar waxwings danced from snag to sky, caught sparkling insects in the silent air's sunlight above the singing rush of water that spilled toward its calmer home. And a fritillary alit, sunlit, alight and spinning its dance on the yellow heart of a daisy for us. Or not for us, just there, red, gold, orange, and silver afire, as wings opened and closed, not in sorrow nor joy, not in acceptance or forgiveness or surrender or anything that calls for earthly tears, just there before us, below the peaks so high above the river sparkling past, day into night, as wind stirred the trees above it, lifted our eyes beyond our eyes to the currents that move the stars.
Oh, gorgeous. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thomas, Thomas joining us from Olympia, Washington. And always a pleasure to hear your voice here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry, my neighbor here in Olympia. Well, everyone, we had just such an overwhelming interest in reading today, and there are more people than we could possibly accommodate, and I'm so sorry if we're not able to get to everyone who would hoped, if you were not here at the we have sign up start at 15 minutes before the hour, before the reading starts, and it filled, and even the wait list was robust within within those first 15 minutes. So if you arrived a little late or haven't signed up for the wait list yet, or only just recently asked, I doubt we'll be able to get to you. I doubt we'll be able to get to folks. So we had said we would go to 15 after the hour. So let's get in as many folks as we can today, and let me move us right to that wait list. And first on the wait list is Harvey Soss, followed by Lenora Good.
Okay, thank you. I'm coming to you from entirely too sunny Brooklyn, where when last I checked, it was 97 degrees out. And the AC is on. This one is called Minnesota Girl Gone Missing, Found Under Ice. This wasn't the ice fishing they were hoping for. The lakes around Brainerd, known to be packed with bass and walleye, not stocked with breathless young girls in leggings, questioning why their air ran out. While one fellow exploded off his upended milk crate to run for help, skidding on boot rubber towards the parking lot, a circle of Bunyan-esque axemen, ice axes in hand, huddled around her upturned aspect, its blue crepiness, arguing against any effort at CPR. Perhaps if they had found her sooner, perhaps if someone had only seen her go in, they might have fished her out and kissed fresh life into those cold, cold lips. The Missing Persons Bureau, having somehow missed that tear in the ice meniscus, warned against by posted signs, its members having gawped too many CSI and Law and Order reruns to account for their mistake, will by now have whittled their backlog down by one. The missing girl's photo freed from its corkboard pride of place. Pre-teen, not even Orion the Hunter could find. The vacuousness in her eyes, wormholes opening upon a lifeless dimension. Officers on the duty roster will reluctantly choose rock, paper, scissors like school kids do, loser tasked with that folded flag call only a fool would volunteer to make. The one that every still hopeful mother worrying rosaries to death fears to receive. Urgent request for a body ID. The sheet pulled back for a last confirmatory look at a freshwater face which, in its present state, only a mother or coroner could love. No need for a Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot here. Obviously, the skating misadventure of an absent schoolgirl, of the sort parents, their license plates sporting land of 10,000 lakes, would have cautioned their children 10,000 times or more to keep an unfrozen eye out for. A period of unnaturally warm weather having resulted in thin ice that might have appeared attractive to a truant soul. Witness those telltale contrails, a pattern of figure eights leading to the hole she plunged through, perhaps having landed a toe loop too far, too hard, a transformational figuration fallen from Swan Lake Grace into a North Long Lake fishery, where picked at by largemouth and smallmouth, she dangled as bait. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harvey, and folks, look for Harvey in the Artful Dodger series that Harvey hosts. I give a little shout out there, and thank you very much for being with us today. We move next to Lenora Good, followed by A Niles.
Hi, Sandy and everybody. Wow, what great poems we've heard today. This is one I wrote as an assignment for a workshop I was taking. Self-portrait, 1982. I come from a family strange. In 1982, I became the twin of both Jack Benny and Mother. I had reached that enviable, albeit magic age of 39. Even now, both Jack and Mom are long gone. I can only ever think of them as 39. When I enlisted in the WAC, filled out hundreds of pages of forms. The Army loves its forms, preferably in triplicate. Would that be tercets of forms? I put, in ink no less, Mother's age is 39. My recruiter looked at me, raised an eyebrow and said, Lenora, I have met your mother. She is not 39. I swore she'd been 39 ever since. Born in 1918, we figured her real age. At my age 39, favorite daughter became a teenager. Favorite son still trailed by 4 years. She was into makeup, surprisingly well done and tasteful. Favorite son preferred to wear his adult-sized small cameos and my old combat boots. She wanted restaurant meals. He didn't care as long as he ate. Alas, 1982 ended. Ebony and Ivory faded from the radio. And I have been 39 for 40 years, and every February I celebrate one more year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lenora.
You are so welcome.
We will move next to A Niles, and I'll just ask folks if they would please mute, because I'm hearing a little feedback.
Are you hearing me okay, Sandy?
Now, oh, I'm still hearing a little feedback.
Okay, I think that may have been my fault. I had original sound on. Sorry.
No worries. All is well. Thanks.
All righty. Very good. Okay, my piece is kind of short, so I guess this should be okay. And this piece is will be found on the Poetry X Hunger website. Many of you probably have poems there already, but you may not know that on August 8th, there will be a global anti-hunger poetry reading. And I just put the link in the chat for you to find out a little bit more about that. Anyway, this piece is called The Planter. He knows a thing or two about edibles emerging tentatively from trampled earth, from tilled earth, from earth that lies dormant until impregnation of seed, until saturation of life's liquid, until the warm, bright gleam penetrates the fleeing darkness. He knows about planting seeds in rich soil or barren, on hills swept clean while wind whistles, near streams that gush or trickle, on desertscapes bereft of promise, in skyscraper gardens and rural enclaves of the lost and forgotten. Yes, he knows about planting ideas that curl and spiral up from smoky inspiration, spaced just so they can breathe, can stretch their ephemeral limbs before settling in to the hard work of feeding minds and spirits. He knows about their gripping pangs, their clenching, their yearning, gaping maws reminiscent of avarice, yet a more kin to need, not greed. When you dive into the depths, penetrate into the core of things, what's required is sustenance, not comeuppance. He knows beyond the power of gray matter and questing tendrils, knows somehow in his marrow, in his molecules that prickle all the way to skin, from corns and calluses to follicles, that mere morsels can serve as understudies for feasts. He knows that his heart beats, his blood flows, his neurons fire in replication of all who breathe, have breathed, will breathe. Their hues as salient as dandruff on a white jacket. Thank you to those who listen.
Wow, thank you so much, TA. And again, check out the chat for the upcoming reading, Poetry Against Hunger, August 8th. Feel free to also post that onto the Cultivating Voices live poetry Facebook page as well. Appreciate that. Well, it's always great when we get to hear some new folks, and we've gotten to hear a few voices today. And I believe next up is a poet that has not read with us before yet. So welcome. Zomkhonto.
Hello, everyone. This poem is, I personified freedom. And so it's freedom checking out Harriet Tubman. I would have loved to be there on the day Harriet Tubman fell in love. Trust me, I would have been the shiniest that afternoon, dripping from head to toe with moon dust and the seduction of myself. Freedom. Ready to take her wherever she wants, use her broken chains to lock the gates to her new kingdom, make nighttime her wedding gown, playing enchanting percussions from kingdoms beyond her imagination as I drown in her desire to take flight, wanting to be a speck of dust suspended in the air and content to be there and stay. Feeling blessed to have been parted from the beaten paths by the soles of her feet. I would have endangered my own heart in a heartbeat and let my rib cage be the tracks to her underground railroad. Be the slave catcher's distraction. Tell him that she went that way, yet she ran into my soul and found God there. I'll send him on so many goose chases that when he returns and finds us making love under the willow tree, he would whip me until he bleeds. Because everyone dreams of that night when all stars are in alignment and somebody illuminates their solitary confinement with a single ray of sun, then freeze them like a light wind. I would love her like a welcome sign and send secret letters to her in children's braids, telling her where to find, rescue me. And if she so chooses, enslave me again, I'll be fine. Freedom knows how to free itself. The day Harriet Tubman is said to have fallen in love, I would have been a Canadian city, waiting on her to run into me. And I introduced myself as simply freedom. Thank you.
That's Zomkhonto. Oh my gosh, wonderful. Thank you for being with us today and for sharing that poem. And Kelly McAllister said, you're in for a treat. And wow, that's a poetry stopper right there. Thank you. I look forward to the next time. All right, folks, I'm trying to get in as many folks in the open mic before we hit that 1:15 mark. So let's move next to Susan Young. Welcome, Susan.
Hi. I guess it's the first time I'll be reading poetry here. It's been difficult trying to schedule or on a Sunday afternoon in Brooklyn, New York. And I'm in the Gowanus Canal, which is a super fund. So there's a lot of headaches about cleaning up the dirtiest canal in the whole world. But this poem I've written, it's called Lost Blues. And it's about a lot of musicians in Lower East Side, jazz musicians who have passed on, and some of the background of how I admired their work. I hear jazz riding the subways, no headphones to supplement the wheels churning, chug-a-chug, chug-a-chug, screech, screech, chug-a-lug, screech. Lost blues by musicians passed on slowly. Dennis Charles holding burlesque beat to every passing woman. Dun, 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 dun. Jerome Cooper mentioning Rosario Dawson's grandmother hatching the roof to drown Jerome strumming. Roy Campbell mentioning Patience Higgins replacing him at Lennox Lounge as I watched the girls at the bar chatting to men. Will Connell Jr. beating his old dented sax for not giving him the right tones. Chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug, screech, screech. Jamil Moondog drunk and wanting to party at David Hammond's Dumbo apartment on New Year's Eve. Ornette Coleman losing at pool to Young Justice and Justice refusing Ornette's song sheet worth millions. Hammett blew it as scaring two young girls locked in his loft space. Bern Nix mentioning no gigs tonight. He performed live on CBS with Ornette's Primetime. The next day, Bern was pushing CBS sets for the next live gig. Billy Bang, rat-a-tatting, Vietnam War on his violin and died of Agent Orange. Chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug, screech, screech. Pedro Pedri rode a plane to heaven. Butch Morris conduction of poets. Elizabeth Atnefu mentions, I taught Miles to paint. She became homeless for 2 years and died. Amare Baraka saying that, what will the critics say about my play, Tarzan and Jane? Al Loving shakes Hetty Jones' dance steps in her Bowery loft. Milton Gray skipped a heartbeat with no gallery show. Charles Searle's colorful sculptures not known to Frank Stella or David Smith. Terry Atkins mentioned an N-word many times. Sheila Olsen never published her grandmother's Cossack's Dreams in Russia. David R. Lowe's only theme for Charlie Rose every night mentioned once how beauty can exist for him. Chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug, screech, screech. And there is not enough time to write about lost blues. Now Lower East Side is whitewashed, hate Asians prevails. This hate had killed me twice and I'm invisible again, so that I don't get stabbed 40 times. Leaving Lower East Side, I hear jazz riding the subway, screech, screech, to Harlem. Play that jazz in a panic, demonic, chaotic social media to build no housing for poor homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's Susan Young. And thank you joining us from New York. First time reading with us. It's been great to hear folks who've been members, and I'm glad you're finally able to join us and look forward to the next time. Well, folks, we said we would go to 1:15 and it's just 1:15, so I'm going to call on Billy Brown to read our last poem for today. I'm so sorry I couldn't get to everyone on the open mic today, and I'm sorry I couldn't get to everyone on the waiting list. There's quite a number of folks there, and apologies, and we look forward to having you read with us next time. So Billy Brown, please close us out for today.
Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for your great poetry today. This morning I attended a concert in which a beautiful piece called Transfigured Night by Arnold Schoenberg was played. And there's a poem, a story behind Transfigured Night, which was briefly described by the Master of Ceremonies. And I wrote this poem in response to that story. Transfigured Night. They walk in silence. She is anxious about what she must share with him. A somber mood pervades their walk in the wood. She is afraid he will reject her when she tells him she is carrying another man's child. When she tearfully tells him her secret, she expects he will spurn her. Yes, he is surprised, must compose himself, consider his words carefully. I have loved you since we first met. I'll not abandon my love for you now. I want to be with you as long as we live. We shall raise this child together as if it is my child. Will you join me? We shall love each other always. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Billy Brown. Thank you to everyone for being here today for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry, for our wild card open mic. And as I've been mentioning the entire program, there was just a wild response today to folks wanting to read, and apologies, I could not get to everyone on the wait list. I mean, a wait list is what a wait list is. And a reminder that of who we heard today, and then we'll show our appreciation. We heard first at the top of the hour, the last hour, we heard in our featured open micers, Julian Matthews, J. Rose Anna, reading with us for the first time from the UK. Thank you for being here. Bill Nevins, Rosaline Callaghan, Rawle James, Glenda Cimino, great to have you with us today. Giulio Magrini, Jude Dubin, Kate, Clare, Wegrzyn, Ken Burch joined us from all too long hiatus. We're very glad to see you today. Gordon Ferris, Thomas A. Thomas, and then we were able to get in on the open mic due to the graciousness of our featured readers, who I think yielded some of their time to get as many people in as we could. We heard, of course, from Harvey Soss, Lenora Good, A Niles, Zomkhonto, great first reading with us. I hope you'll come back and we'll get to hear more of your poetry, as well as Susan Jung, great to have you read with us for the first time. And we closed out with Billy Brown. Would you please feel free to unmute and show your appreciation for all of our readers today.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Thank you, everyone.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
I'm going to be a part of such an esteemed
Here.
Great carnival. Great carnival.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
hope Rawle James, did I? No, okay. I want to make sure I got everybody's name in. I'm
No, you
reading
did.
off a
Yeah, you
list and
did.
sometimes,
Yeah, you
okay.
did.
I gotta make sure.
Welcome back, Ken Burch. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, you've been here today for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry, our wild card live open mic, wild card open mic. Wow, what poetry we heard today from all over, all over the world, really. Many countries and continents we were even in today. So I encourage you all to, as I say every Sunday, join us again next Sunday for our reading, and feel active on Facebook with us. I always appreciate that you choose to come and spend your time on a Sunday morning, afternoon, evening with us here at Cultivating Voices. You have so many choices for reading series, and yet it's amazing the constellation of poets that we get to hear when we gather together on these Sundays for our readings. I'm Sandy Yannone, your host for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. I would extend my deepest appreciation and thanks to Kim Ports Parsons, who is the receiver of the names and gets the open mic list ready for me in the order in which she receives names. I guess that's called herding cats a little bit. Appreciate that effort. And of course, Don Krieger, who supports the technical aspects of the program and helps us with registering and the monitoring of getting folks registered so that we have a good, safe, secure space. Again, I hope you'll come back next time. My apologies. I can't say enough. I would have loved to have heard every single one of you. But I said we would go to 1:15 and so with the readers. So I hope you'll come back, those who didn't get to read and those of you who did get to read and those of you who haven't read yet, come on back, share with us next time you have the opportunity on one of our open mics or our themed readings. I hope you have a very good week wherever you are in the world. Take very good care of yourself. Take care of your beloveds. And please keep writing those remarkable poems. We need your voice in the world. Sandy, see you next time.